Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to another computer science lecture for 9618 AS level. And today we are going to start our discussion on section number 7, that is ethics and ownership. Then we have 7.1 with the same name, ethics and ownership. Basically this whole section only have one subsection, ethics and ownership. Computer ethics are a set of principles that define what is morally good and right behavior when a user is using computers. These ethics cover computers' contribution to the health, safety, and welfare of the public, the privacy or rather data privacy, intellectual property rights or the copyright, and censorship. Computers have an increasing central role in the society, and with so many people using and being affected by computers, it is extremely important to have ethics that relate to the design, behavior, and use of computer systems. Ethics in computers. A professional who is in the field of IT or computer science can receive guidance on ethical behavior by joining an appropriate professional organization. Such an organization will have a code of conduct that will include reference to ethical practices. For example, the British Computer Society (BCS) has a code of conduct that gives guidance under 4 headings: public interest, professional competence and integrity, duty to relevant authority, duty to the profession. The Association for Computing Machinery, the ACM, and the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, or IEEE, are both based in the USA but have a global perspective and global influence when it comes to creating the standards and rules and guidance related to computers and machines. The IEEE-CS or the ACM Joint Task Force Software Engineering Code of Ethics define 8 principles which are as follows. So basically IEEE and ACM, they both joined forces and drew up together 8 core principles for software engineers around the world to follow. The first one, public. Software engineers shall act consistently with the public interest. If a software is not in the interest of public, let's suppose somebody tries to hire you for a to create a virus or a Trojan horse, this is obviously not in the public interest. So as a professional software engineer, you should deny it, no matter what you are getting in return or how much reward you have been offered. Client and employer. Software engineers shall act in the best interest of their client and employer, consistent with the public interest. That's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think so I need to give you an example for that. Product. Software engineers shall ensure that their products and related modifications meet the highest professional standards possible. You should not just be, doing something such as giving a client a software with a bad build. Obviously it would be installable and it would work for a while, but then it would crash. So the product you are giving to your client or to your employer, that should be a top-notch product. It should not be done something half-heartedly. Judgment. Software engineers shall maintain integrity and independence in their professional judgment. Nothing should persuade you away from making the right decision when it comes to creating softwares. If something feels like wrong to you, then that means you should not be working on such a project. Management. Software engineering managers and leaders shall subscribe to and promote an ethical approach to the management of software development and maintenance. profession. Software engineers shall advance the integrity and reputation of the profession consistent with the public interest. Colleagues. Software engineers shall be fair to and supportive of their colleagues. Then the last thing we have is self. Software engineers shall participate in the lifelong learning regarding the practice of their profession and shall promote an ethical approach to the practice of the promotion. Again, like I said, a software developer is not supposed to do something for their own good. Plus, they are obliged to continue learning the new updates about what it means to be a software engineer. What are the practices of their profession. Despite the differences in detail, the codes are consistent with regards to the following. The public interest or public good is a key concern. The codes present fundamental principles. The profession is expected to exercise their own judgment. The professional should seek advice if unsure of a certain situation. Public impact. Public concern while developing a new hardware or software is solely related to the costs associated with a failed project. There is no public concern relating to the ethics of the endeavor itself. Though any project can affect public in multiple ways, there can be health and safety concerns. Like for example, if you develop a game that is very addictive and it is causing teenagers to play it for, let's say, 12 hours a day, then this is going to raise a health and safety risk. It should be in the public interest. Something being developed that is in the interest of the employer or the shareholder should not be continued. Only the thing which is in the public interest shall be continued and shall be favored. Benefits to the public. The product should be giving some benefits to the public as well as concerns of the public, if any. Mostly they are related to cost of the software or the game. They should be addressed properly. Public has raised objection over nature of project or its end result many times, such as commercial companies are able to capture market through pressure. Less costly alternatives are available, but due to having a big brand name, people are forced or rather manipulated into buying them instead of going for the cheap alternatives. Companies providing systems which are not secure against forced entry. Many cloud companies have this issue, or many web hosting companies have this issue. They claim to be very good and blah blah blah, but then one day your account gets hacked. Organizations always try to hide security breaches within their system to save face, which is again wrong. If there have been a breach of security in your organization, in your servers, you should let the public know that your systems are vulnerable, while at the same time you should reinforce your security. Data shared or correspondence between individuals is being saved and shared with security services. This is at times usually done without the consent of the original owners of the data or the people who are actually corresponding with each other. They don't know about it. Social media sites allowing abusive or illegal content. Search engines showing paid results on top and which may not be as good as some other websites which have not paid to the search engine company, but they have better content. There is no consistent public attitude to concerns like this, which makes it difficult for individual developers to make a judgment with respect to public good, because public is always divided. A sanction of public would be opposing something, whereas another group of people would be supporting it. So taking a judgment in such a scenario is quite a difficult task. Even if a company is not acting in the public good, it will always be difficult for an individual to exert any influence, as taking rogue action can result in their lives being severely affected. Let's suppose you are the software developer at ABC company. The company is making a product that is not exactly in the public's interest, but just a developer, you usually would not have a very big influence over the board of directors. If you try to raise objections, you are rather going to end up losing your own job, and you might as well be pressed with some charges, some fake charges, such as of theft in the company or so on, instead of the board of directors listening to your concerns properly and then trying to abort the project as a whole. Usually companies fire such employees, hire new ones, and the project continues. Applying the ACMI EEE Code of Ethics principle, this is a example, this is rather a case study. The Google self-driving car. The Google car is a concept for a self-driving car that autonomously takes the passenger where they wish to go. When designing, building, and testing the software, Google software developers had one principle placed above all: the safety of the passenger and the public. In doing so, Google's developers had to consider ethical questions about safety and breaking the law. Consider this situation: a passenger in a Google car may fall ill and might need urgent hospital attention or urgent medical attention. The Google car is programmed to stay within the allowed speed limits even if the road is clear. However, keeping to the speed limit may mean that the passenger does not receive medical treatment in time and passes away by the time the car reaches a proper medical facility, such as a hospital. Now, Google's developer have to consider the ethical considerations of both the passenger and the public at large. In this situation, speeding may endanger the public, but driving legally might endanger the passenger. So what should the car do in such a situation? These are the type of questions that a developer has to consider. Software development is not really a walk in the park. You have to be very much aware about the legal practices, about the ethical dilemmas like this, as well as you have to be very keen eyes, and you have to be quite judgmental in order to be a professional and internationally recognized software developer. Another scenario we have is the network monitoring. In the workplace, computer users might find themselves placed in a situation with conflicting ethics. For example, the management of a company might suspect that an employee is wasting work time accessing social media websites on the company's computers. This highlights the importance of having a computer code of conduct in place. If the code of conduct forbids access to social networking through company's computers or on company's time, then the management have an ethical right to check that the code is being upheld. Without a code, checking on the employee could be considered an invasion of privacy. If you have not given a proper charter of workplace ethics, or if you have not shared a proper set of rules, workplace rules obviously, with your employees, then you basically don't have the right to invade their privacy and see whether they are working during their office hours or they are just browsing the internet, wasting their time. However, if you have shared some terms and conditions with them, if you have shared a code of conduct with them, then you have the right to check, not all the time, but you can randomly check them, or something like twice a week or something, that whether they are actually working or they are wasting their time, or the company's time rather in this case. However, even with the code of conduct to behave ethically, the company could only check on those employees for whom they have evidence of unethical behavior. You cannot simply if you have, let's say, 20 employees in your office, and a manager suspects some of them are not being as productive and they are rather wasting company's time or resources, the manager can only hold a random check if he has some evidence or some proof that, okay, some of the employees are wasting company's time or resources. Plus, he cannot snap check all 20 employees. He can only do that for those who are top suspects, and for only those employees for whom some sufficient evidence has been gathered by the manager that they are indeed breaking the code of conduct for the company, as privacy have to be considered for every other employee who is not a suspect. Then we have ownership. When something unique is created, the creator has its ownership. In the field of computers, it can be a software or a hardware. This is technically known as intellectual property, but not simply an idea. Unless and until you have created a software or a hardware, then you cannot opt for the intellectual property right, or you cannot opt for it to be registered as an intellectual property, as people across the world can have similar ideas or even same ideas, even though they may not know about each other. Copyright laws exist to protect these intellectual properties. Copyright gives an individual or an organization the sole and exclusive right to copy intellectual property, sell it, develop it, or license it to others. Copyright makes it illegal for anyone else to duplicate, replicate, sell, or license to others someone else's intellectual property. An example of that is software piracy. You cannot just download MS Office or purchase a copy of MS Office and then sell it to 10 more people by making DVDs at home. That would be against the copyright laws, because the MS Office is considered the intellectual property for Microsoft company. It's not yours. Only Microsoft can sell it, change it, replicate it, or license it to others, or develop it further. Then we have the copyright legislation or the copyright laws. An international agreement says that copyright laws cannot be avoided by someone publishing the work in another country without permission. So if somebody writes an article or makes a software in Africa, for example, and somebody else copies their work and publishes it in the market as their own piece of work in, let's say, United Kingdom, or in Saudi, or in Zimbabwe. So just because they have done it in another country does not mean that the copyright laws would not be implemented on them. Copyright laws are supposed to be global and international. So even if you copyright something or register something in your own name, specifically a intellectual property, let's say you go for the copyright registration and you acquire a patent in Pakistan, then that means that thing has been patented for you, not, or you have been given the copyright exclusive rights for that intellectual property, not just here in Pakistan but all over the world. Typical copyright laws will include a requirement for registration recording the date of creation of the work, a defined period when copyright will apply, such as 100 years, 50 years, or so on, a policy to be applied if an individual holding copyright dies. Like for example, I create a software and I register it with my name and acquire a copyright, then I can choose that after 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years later when I die, who is going to be to inherit that copyright. It can be my next of kin, it can be a company, a charity organization, etc. An agreed method for indicating the copyright, for example, the use of this C symbol to show that whatever product you are selling or whatever information you are sharing, whatever things you have done are copyrighted, and somebody else should not be copying it without prior permission and proper crediting. Means the person, even if they have taken permission from you to use some of your work in their own in their own work, such as using some of your code in their own software, or using some of your content or your described information in their own lectures or in their written essays or research articles, etc. They not only have to get a written permission from the original owner, they also have to give credit or give reference of the original owner as well, or the original copyright holder, that this content, this piece of work was originally produced by so and so person. Okay, so 7.1, there are still some topics left. However, the video would be getting long, so we are going to end it till here. This would be the part 1 of section 7, and inshallah in part 2 we'll wrap it up. I hope you have understood everything. If you have any questions or problems or confusions, feel free to write them in the comment below. I'll definitely get back to you. If you want a hard copy of these notes, or the notes for physics O-level or IGCSE, or a study bundle for AS level, or a study bundle for computer science O-levels, then you can use the link of the form given in the description below. Lastly, if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so, and also share it with your friends. I'll see you guys in the next lecture. Take care. Allah Hafiz.